Hey guys, Rhett here. What is going on? Thanks for watching. I wanted to come to you today with a video about how to start investing in Section 8 housing. Because what you'll find is what seems like every week there's a new account on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube of people telling you how to invest in Section 8. And what I would tell you is, number one, check the receipts. Make sure that they've been doing this for years and years and years, and they have the credibility to be able to say what they're saying. And more importantly, to make sure that you're not listening to the wrong folks, okay? That is number one. How do you start investing in Section 8? You find the right people to listen to first before you start investing in Section 8. But I wanted to go through a little bit of the absolute, the items that are ironclad. This is what you do to invest in Section 8. And if you're new to the channel, please, after you watch this video, go through and just see how we operate here, because the way we operate here is going to be the polar opposite of everything else you've seen. A lot of times when we bring on new clients, we are rewiring their brains a little bit to get them more into a realistic mindset of what this is going to look like, what the numbers are going to be. Because when you are looking on Instagram and you're looking on TikTok and you're getting a lot of information that is extremely untrue. You're getting numbers that are very, very blown out of proportion. You're not going to get them. You're getting net cash flows that are unreasonable. You're getting budgets of what it's going to take to get into these houses that is extremely unreasonable. You're getting FMR and rent amounts that you're not going to get. So if you're running all of your numbers based on what other people are telling you your cash flows are going to look like, you're in for a serious hurting. And a lot of my clients who are watching this right now are probably like, yep, you are, right? Because what you're seeing being thrown in front of your face is it's not true. And there are a lot of people who are just throwing a bunch of shiny stuff at you and saying, hey, buy Section 8 houses. This is what you're going to be able to buy. This is what you're going to be able to have. But there's no substance behind it. So it's how do we, okay, well, I see that you have that stuff. How do we get that? Okay, well, you just, you put $5,000 or $10,000 down in a creative finance deal and you can buy 50 houses. Absolutely not. It's not even close. You have to do this thing very, very regimented, very, very operationally sound, very, very logistically sound in order to do it. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. And if you don't want to hear that, shut this video off, because I'm going to give you a lot more stuff you don't want to hear. But if you actually want to build a real Section 8 portfolio from out of state in a niche of real estate that not a lot of people know a lot about, then stay and listen, because I'm going to give you some serious education here, okay? Now, number one, your most important aspect of doing this is without question the team. That is it. I do not care about anything else. The team's most important. People say, no, market's most important. You're wrong. It's not. It's the team. And I mentioned this in other videos too, but if you give me a good team and put me in a market that's not great to make money in, I will make money. I promise. If you give me a terrible team and put me in the most profitable market in the country, I will lose money. You are only as good as your team. Okay? People say to me all the time, Rhett, how did you create a real estate business that has complete vertical integration where we own the vendors? When you look at construction, property management, the biggest parts of this thing that create risk, we own them. Everything's under our umbrella. So you use us. You come into my program and I walk you through it, hand in hand every step of the way, and then we control all the vendors to make sure that you make money. And they say, well, how did you create such a large real estate company? Your clients spend 9 figures a year, easy, every single year in Section 8. But it's not a real estate company. It's a logistics business. And that's what this is. So if you don't have the logistics in place, if you don't have the realtors, you don't have the lenders, you don't have the insurance companies, you don't have the construction, the property management, you don't have that stuff, you're going to lose money. You don't have the handyman, you don't have the maintenance people, you don't have the softwares. You're going to lose money. And a lot of people will say, well, any realtor, I can use any realtor. Well, are you sure you're going to use a realtor that's actually going to care about you? Are they incentivized to care about you at all, or do they just want to make the sale? Or they say, well, I've done 10 houses with my insurance company and they're great. Well, have they ever insured something in an area like we're going to invest in Section 8? I'll tell you right now, you call Progressive or State Farm, I guarantee you they're going to take your premium, and then after 8 months, they're going to drop you and they're going to leave you in the dust. They're going to take your premium, they're going to run off with it, and you're going to leave you hanging. So this is such a in-depth business where every single acquisition we do is different. And I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of these Section 8 acquisitions, from single-family homes to multifamily homes, multifamily from 2 doors up to hundreds. I can tell you right now, every single acquisition that we've done is different. Now, there are aspects of them that are similar, and when you do hundreds of homes in one market and they're all built in a 10 to 20 year period, they all tend to have similar issues. You know what to look out for. There's a lot of similarities, but every single acquisition is different. Every client's different, and every client has different goals, different financial backgrounds, different backgrounds in general. So we cater to them individually. So number one, the team. If you don't have the team, I don't even want you to consider doing this. I don't care if you have a mentor or not. If you don't have an unbelievably good team that you can fly to that market and sit down with and have a conversation with, you cannot do this, okay? So please, please, please don't do it unless you have a team, and have the best team that is, tried and true and proven in this area, okay? The companies that I own, they all specialize in Section 8 because that's what we do. Number 2, location. And is location important? Yeah, it's important. Is it as important as a team? No, it isn't. But once we have the team, right? This is a video on how to start investing in Section 8. Once we have the team, we have to choose our location. Locations are going to be primarily chosen by the team. Which location is our team able to be in and work unbelievably convincingly in? What area is our team able to control the most? That is going to be a very, very high driving factor to where we invest, to where that location is. Now, we have teams, because of the way that this whole thing works, we have teams in locations that are very profitable, right? It wouldn't make sense to have teams that aren't in profitable areas. So the areas that we look for have an extremely high demand for Section 8, number one, and have a very low supply in relation to the amount of demand that Section 8 has in that area. So we know these areas. We're able to have an extensive amount of data because we've been in these areas for as long as we have, and that is all extremely important. If you go up and you go online and you try and look at the best markets for Section 8 and where is property value cheapest and where's this, where's that, the reason why markets have cheap properties is because it's hard to make money in those areas. You look at Los Angeles, New York City, Nashville, Tennessee, Tampa, Florida, Dallas, Texas. Anybody can buy a house there, close their eyes and hibernate for 7 years and sell it and make money. That's easy. Buying houses for under $100,000 in markets, it's not easy to make money. You have to know what you're doing, which is why the prices are cheap. So do not look at home prices as the driving factor to this. Location is important, but it's not as important as the team that's in that location. So we have teams all throughout the United States in areas and in markets that are going to be conducive to what you're trying to do, but it is absolutely not the most important part of this. So once we have our team set up, we're going to choose our location. And once we have that location, we're going to move on to the next step of this, which is going to be making sure you're ready to buy. So what does that mean? Do you have your LLC set up? Do you have your bank account set up? Do you have your pre-approval in hand? Do you have that stuff? Are you ready to buy? And if you are ready to buy, we start that property search. What does that property search looks like? Well, we talk about in my program, once we have our pre-approvals, once we have, we've met our team, once you've met your insurance contacts, once you've met your people, we start that search. And that search is based on literally decades of experience doing this and understanding, okay, this is the square footage that we need. This is what's going to fly off the shelves square footage wise. This is what the house should be made out of because CapEx will be less over a long period of time if we buy a house that's this material versus this material. Understanding, okay, in this neighborhood, rents have gone up 14% over the last 3 years. In this neighborhood, they've gone down 3%. So let's focus on this neighborhood versus this one. How do you figure that out? Well, you have to have been in that market for a long time and have been doing this for a long time. So that is extremely important. If you want to make money, you have to be with people that have been making money in that place for a long time, who have understood how market trends have changed. Because in real estate, trends are always changing. You have to always be one step ahead at all times. Okay, so that is extremely, extremely important. In that property search, when you finally find the houses that you like, you have to narrow them down. And if you're an out-of-state investor and you've never done this before, how do you know what you're narrowing down? You might be looking at 200 properties for sale. You narrow it down to 10. Now what? How do you choose the 10? That's where we come in. For all my clients, I look at every single house before they offer on them. We talk about what we think we should offer. I look at all my notes of over the past years to see if one of my construction companies has been in that house and what notes we have on it. So you're getting years of experience, literally tons of experience before you even put an offer in. Okay. So having people that have an understanding of the area, who don't just care about making money, who want to make sure you buy something good and make sure that it's the right asset for you and the right asset that we're not going to run into issues with anybody down the chain as we start onboarding that unit. Okay. So once we choose our house, we talk about an offer, we send an offer out, and it gets accepted. Assume we haven't seen it before, we go out to do an inspection because you have to inspect these units. When you buy a house or you go under contract on a house, you have to inspect it. Now, people do this all the time and they call me, they say, Rhett, I'm under contract on a house in so-and-so city. I have an inspection. Here's my inspection report. Okay, well, what market are you buying it in? Who's your team? Who's your realtor? Who inspected it? Did you have a licensed home inspector do it? Did you have a contractor do it who's going to be doing the work, who understands exactly what Section 8 needs? And do they also have an understanding of what's going to break in that unit and what you're trying to do? And do they understand, what kind of wear and tear we need to, what items that are the best at holding up to wear and tear over a long period of time are going to be? There's so much that goes into this, and it all is going to go back, you'll see, to point number one of having that right team. So how do you invest in Section 8 properties? Where do you start? It's all about the team. It's all about the people you're doing it with. So anyway, but I digress. So once we have that property inspected, a lot of times we'll just have our contractors inspect the units because they can walk through them and understand immediately what needs to be done to get them rented fast, to make sure that they're good looking, and to make sure that we're not going to be paying maintenance fees every single month for the entire life of the property. And one big piece of this, and why it's so important to have control over property management as well as construction like we do, is because the taste of people is constantly changing, right? It's always changing. We had periods where carpet was what everybody wanted for their kids. And then you have periods where LVP in a light color, in a gray and a white, is all people want, or a very light tan. You have periods where people want cabinets to be a certain color. You have periods where people want certain kinds of light fixtures where they move away from warm and into LED and more of a colder color. So things are constantly changing. And if you don't have property management and construction communicating those things of feedback constantly, what ends up happening is you start putting units on market that are outdated, that aren't going to get rented. And when you're in a free market like Section 8, competing against other private sector landlords, you need to create a product that is going to win over a tenant if they're trying to choose between 2 or 3 units. So that is extremely, extremely important to what we're trying to do. But the analysis needs to be accurate. So the home inspector, the contractor, they need to be able to go into these units. And we do a majority of contractor work because or when I say contractor work, contractor inspections, because for us, we just need to know what it's going to take to make the unit efficient, make it fly off the market, and make it really good for a tenant. And when I say efficient, I mean cash flow efficient. So what needs to be done? What do we need to do to make it safe, to make it livable without breaking our budget, without overspending, but also at the same time making it a very sought-after unit on the market? You're going to have contractors go in who are going to try and put things in the unit like it's HGTV, stupid light fixtures, stupid faucets, vanities and toilets that don't make sense, that are going to cause a lot of maintenance problems because they don't know what we're going for here. We're going for safety. We're going for something that is going to be tenant proof, that's not going to cause a lot of maintenance issues. And that is extremely important because your money's at stake. You are trusting a contractor to make opinions that you are going to be cutting the check for. So you need to make sure you're working with the right people who have an understanding of what needs to go into the unit and what you're just losing money, wasting money on. I see it all the time. So I want to really, really emphasize the fact that if your contractors don't do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Section 8 units a year, they're not the right contractor for you. And good luck finding contractors that do that kind of work. I don't know of any contractors outside of our program that offer that. Okay, so then say we have a house under contract. We understand exactly the work that's going to go into it. That's been guaranteed. That is a guaranteed price to get it through inspection, which is what we do. We make sure that we are in control of these units from the day you close on them until they get through Section 8 inspection, to make sure that if something fails, we'll go back and take care of it, no problem. Once you decide to move forward and you get with the right title companies and you get with the right people, the right attorneys to close these things, now you got to get your construction team in there immediately. Every day that this thing's not rented, it's costing you money. So lining up everything that needs to be done there, getting these construction projects done, and then as soon as they're done, they got to go right to management. There can't be wasted time. As soon as the projects are done, you get them right with property management. As soon as property management has them, they need to be go right up on market. They might clean them quick. They got to take good marketing photos that are going to appeal to the right people. As soon as they appeal to those tenants, the tenants are going to call. When the tenants call, your management company needs to answer. And your management company needs to be working the best they can for you. So when that happens and someone calls in about your unit, somebody needs to answer that phone and line up a showing. They need to be able to understand, okay, what in this house, why is the house that we're managing better than the other houses you're looking at? They need to be extremely easy to communicate with. They need to have an understanding of what the tenants are going through. You can't have a property management company that is 50 miles away or 20 miles away from where the units are. They need to understand what these tenants are going through on a daily basis. They need to be in the weeds of this thing. And the management companies that I own and that we've created, they're in these areas. We are amongst the tenants. We know what their struggles are. We know what they're going through. We know how to communicate with them to make sure we're putting the right people in our units. And that's for you, to make sure that you make money. Because if the wrong tenant goes into that unit, all of a sudden we lose money. And when we lose money, that's this is a business. This isn't a charity. So it's all about the bottom line without sacrificing the tenant, without sacrificing their life or their ability to live a comfortable life. So we're never sacrificing the tenant's quality for money, but we're not running a charity, we're running a business, and we can do both of those things. We can make sure that the tenant is extremely happy and gets a home that they take pride in, that is safe, and we can also make sure that we make money. So that is extremely important, being able to balance those two things, which not a lot of people know how to do. It goes back to making sure that you have a collective buy-in amongst your team where everyone has a very straight line, moral and ethical path that aligns with each other, which is what we have. It's taken me a very long time to build those teams, but we have that now. So once the construction's done and you get it to the management, they're marketing it, they're advertising it, now it's time for Section 8. And what I mean by that is, say the management company has chosen a tenant and they decide to move forward with that tenant. Now that management company has to be very, very close with the Section 8 Housing Authority to make sure that all the paperwork is filed on time, to make sure that their communication with caseworkers, Section 8 inspectors is top notch. Because if there is a lag in the communication between your management company and Section 8 caseworkers, tenants, or inspectors, it's going to cost you time. Time is money. So making sure that they line up inspections as fast as possible, make sure paperwork is processed as fast as possible. All of that stuff goes back to having a management company that understands the ins and outs of Section 8 to make sure that you get exactly what you're looking for and make sure that we can get somebody in that unit as fast as possible, which is extremely important. So after the unit is inspected and passes, your tenant moves in. Soon as the tenant moves in, you start cash flowing. And when Section 8 starts paying you, sometimes they start paying you immediately. Sometimes there's a month, 2 month, and even in some rare cases, a 3-month delay before you start getting paid. If that is the case, you'll get back pay from the day that inspection was passed. So if you had an inspection passed and the tenant moved in, and then it takes 3 months to get paid, you're going to get paid month 1, 2, and 3 from Section 8. So you get a lump sum payment. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer depending on the time of the year to process that paperwork. So having a management company that understands that, having a mentor that understands that can make sure that you're not getting panicked or too anxious. You're going to get your money. You just signed a contract with the government. So they pay, but sometimes they take a while. And then a very, very important aspect of this too is the seasoning period. And you might hear that a lot when it comes to lending. So a lot of times when we do the BRRRR method, there's a seasoning period, which means you can't refinance a house in the BRRRR method for a certain time period after you purchase it. From the date of purchase, say we purchase a property on January 1st, most companies won't allow you to refinance inside of a 6-month window. So we can't refinance it until June 1st, 6 months later. Now, what ends up happening is, say we close January 1st, we start construction January 5th. Construction is 30 days. We're done, February 5th, call it. We go on market on February 6th. We find a tenant by February 15th. February 15th comes and we start paperwork immediately. It takes, say, 30 days to have our inspection. So we're now at March 15th. We pass. Tenant moves in March 20th. So we now essentially have March 20th. We have all of the remainder of March. We have all of May. And then we have, June, which is right around the corner, which is really what our true seasoning period is. It doesn't feel like much of a seasoning period while we're doing construction and advertising and marketing, but that property seasoning, that way when June 1st comes, we can do our cash out refinance, pull our equity, and roll that money into the next house. Now, the seasoning period isn't the worst thing. So even if you buy a home up front with financing and you have a pre-approval, we buy a house, we put our 20% down, I always consider the first 6 months as seasoning, and that's important. And if you don't have a team that is the best in the business at doing this, I highly recommend pushing seasoning from 6 to 12 months, somewhere in that window. Because what you'll find is you're going to find in the first couple months that the tenant is in the unit, that is going to be the months that you face the most amount of issues, especially from a maintenance standpoint. If it's a new construction, you're going to find things that, or a full renovation, you're going to find things that need to be touched up by the contractors who did the work. They're going to get back out there and knock that stuff out. Same when you buy a new house and you're just getting the bugs out. If you buy a house that was quote unquote turnkey, you're going to see what you didn't find during the inspections. You're going to find, small issues with plumbing, small issues with electrical, issues with this, issues with that, just very, very small things. But you need to get the bugs out. You need to understand how your asset is cash flowing. You need to see what your real numbers look like. You got to look at your financial models that we would run, prior to purchase during the analysis phase of what we do. So when you go under contract and you see what your rehab numbers look like, we're analyzing that to make sure that our cash flows are looking like what they need to look like. And in order to get those reasonable cash flows that are legitimate and not overblown like you see on social media, you have to have a very, very direct understanding of exactly what the costs are going to be. Well, how do you do that? Well, when you do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of houses a year like we do, you know exactly what your costs are going to be, even to the dollar in certain neighborhoods because of the volume that we do. So during that analysis phase, you need to have a hypothesis and have a conservative estimate of what your cash flow is going to be. And then during that seasoning phase, once you have a tenant in there and it's cash flowing, you need to look at the two and say, okay, well, here is my hypothesis and this is my actual. Where did I make a mistake? And then once you are able to stabilize the unit, which usually takes place in the first 6 months, and you say, okay, we got the bugs out, we got the small maintenance issues out of the way. Now we have a unit that is fully stabilized and cash flowing and it's secure. Where are my issues? And I promise you're going to have issues. Well, if you have issues because the same issues coming up over and over with maintenance, you know that your contractor, your home inspector missed it. Now on the next one, you need to find somebody else. Or if you have a issue with your tenant, you know that your management company screwed that up. Or if your insurance is higher than you thought it was going to be, well, then you need to include that now in your model for next year when you start doing another model for your next home. So during that seasoning period, we need to start aligning what our true numbers are going to be now that you have a proof of concept. And the proof of concept is extremely important because that is what you've created that you are going to model the rest of your portfolio off of. I don't care if it's good or bad. If you're doing it on your own without a team, it's most likely going to be bad. If you're doing it with us, it's most likely going to be really good. So we're going to model that off of that. And if you had a house that was a nightmare, sometimes you screw it up so bad you don't even know what to change. And unfortunately, I get on calls with prospective clients all the time. And that's the case where it's so bad. There's been so many mistakes that have happened where they just have to dump it and take a loss. I don't want you to do that. Why not just start off right with people who have done it right and not make any mistakes up front? That's the best way to do it. And then you do it perfectly. All your numbers are exactly where you thought they were going to be. Then you just repeat that over and over and over again. So that seasoning period is to try and understand where my mistakes came, where they are, what needs to be changed so I can change them now on that next process to move forward. So guys, that is how you buy your first Section 8 house. That is the process. That is what it looks like. That is a 6-month or really a 12-month process. You can shrink down to however fast you want. A lot of my clients who buy multiple, at this point, they've bought so many that they can buy them every 2 months, every month, every 3 months, whatever it is. They know exactly what their numbers are going to be. They know what their budget is. They know what they can spend, what they can't, what the ARVs are going to look like, what markets to buy in, what neighborhoods to look in, which people to use, when to bring me in the process. So we keep it very, very, very tight. And if you guys want to be a part of that, if you want to skip all of the BS and get right down to brass tacks and do it right the first time and not waste money, send me an email in the description below. We'll get you started. And guys, as always, please leave your questions, comments. I'll get to all of them. We'll see you next time.